Welcome back to What's Wrong with This Picture. I'm Dave Dufour here with Dennis Guillaume. We're talking about printing your photographs, which, you know, in this age of digital technology and photo sharing online, a lot of times we tend to forget that, oh yeah, you can still make photo prints and you can still share pictures in a printed form and in some other novel ways as well. We were going to look at some of those novel ways of displaying and sharing photos that don't involve a computer, although, well, they do when you order the product, but there's some fun things here that we were going to talk about.
There was a question that came from the chat room that we might address as a lead into this.
Okay.
The question was, what's the difference between printing them at home, printing them at the store, and sending them off for professional prints or to a lab?
Right.
And the biggest difference there is in the color correctness of things. Generally speaking, if you've gone to the expense and the trouble of calibrating your inkjet printer to your monitor, and you know that when you say print this, it's going to look like it came off your monitor, you can get some pretty nice prints, and the ink from those inkjet printers will last quite a long time now. They've improved those inks a lot.
Right.
And so printing on your inkjet printer isn't a bad thing. They'll last a long time, and the question is whether or not you're getting the accuracy and the quality that you're looking for. The other thing is when you go to the store to do this, my experience with that is you get a lot of prints in normal sizes for a pretty reasonable price.
Right.
It's almost hard to print them at home, pay for the ink and the paper, and get them as cheaply as if you do at one of the quick print places, you know, in the store.
I mean, if you absolutely have to have a print like at home, quick, for some reason to hand to somebody, you know, that makes a certain amount of sense. But the fact is, you can order them through something like Snapfish or Shutterfly, which we've talked about. Have them shipped right to that person, and you're talking sometimes less than a dime a print. If you're talking about your standard 4x6 print, it's not that much.
No.
And and when you make a print on a computer on your computer, you may print it 2 or 3 times before you're satisfied with it.
Right.
And so, how much ink are you using? How much photo paper are you using? And if you're not using photo paper, you might as well, you know, that's not really a good print at all.
How many times did the printer nozzles clog up and you had to go through the cleaning process and try to print it again before you got a good print without streaks in it and so on? Finally, you get to the going to the pro lab or many of these places that offer pro quality services, and there you're getting a high quality paper. Oftentimes they will actually color correct your print for you, unless you're real sure of yourself and you know that the color correction that you've done and the retouching you've done is exactly the way you want it, and you can tell them, don't touch it, just print it, and they will do that.
Yeah, right.
But they also offer that service where they'll look at what you've sent them, and if they feel that it needs a little color correction, if there's a color cast, they can help you with that, and it just comes out looking a lot better.
One of the questions that came out had to do with is this dye sublimation type printing. Obviously, you don't do that at home, probably.
Well, actually, you can. There are a couple of different kinds of printers. There's inkjet printers. There's laser printers, which is another way of getting a color print. Laser printers, in my experience, aren't as good in terms of tonal range as inkjet printers, but that's just my experience. Someone else can argue with that. And then there's dye sublimation, which has since its inception been considered, I think, a fairly high quality print. And you can buy dye sublimation printers if you prefer, instead of inkjet. Where that technology goes and how good it is and so on, I'm not familiar with it because I haven't spent any time actually doing it. But it is another method of getting the color on the page.
Okay. Well, let's look at some of the other things that you can do with your pictures here. Starting off with?
Well, if we looked at things, we talked a little bit about the gallery wrap in the beginning. And if you look at the screen, you can see that here's a company called Canvas On Demand. Well, the very name would tell you that they're specializing in canvas materials as the material on which the prints are made. And gallery wraps are canvas wrapped around a frame. and you can also get them mounted on a substrate of some kind.
Now you have to have a pretty large photo and a high resolution, good resolution photo for this to really be worthwhile.
Well, you don't really have to be too awfully high. The fact is that many gallery wraps, 16 by 20 for example, can be made off of almost any 10, 12 megapixel camera, and you can get that size print. They want you to send them a print usually that is 300 pixels per inch in resolution, so they have something to work with. They actually then will interpolate and do whatever they have to do in order to get that thing enlarged to what you want. And they come off, my experience with them, they come off looking pretty good.
Right. Now here's one that we were talking a little bit about photo restoration during the break, but this is a nice way to show older photos too, is to get it on the canvas.
Yes.
You know, and it gives you kind of like a nice textural feel to them as well. So
exactly.
All right. Our next, we had something we were going to look at from MPix again. I believe it was the, here's some more, those are, is that a kind of gallery wrap, or is that, oh no, those are magnets.
Those are magnets,
Magnets, okay.
Yeah, it's funny what you can put, pictures on these days. And we'll list a few of these things as we go along, but magnets are one of the things, you know, those things that seem to multiply on your refrigerator. Well, they go other places too, I suppose, but I find them all there. Your grandson or your child is playing in a little league football or baseball or something, and they take those pictures, or you go take pictures of them in action, and then they end up on your computer and no one ever looks at them again. Well, it's pretty easy and pretty inexpensive to have a couple magnets made and stick them on the
well, and it becomes kind of a practical item. It's sort of a handy thing that you can actually use, and then you see it all the time. But
birthday pictures, all that sort of thing. It's another way of displaying your artwork.
Right. Here's another one. We were going back. We're kind of jumping around here a little bit. This is the picture framing service that comes from Adorama Pix, and that's I mean, you can get, you know, fairly fancy frames. You would think that kind of this sort of, you know, quote unquote mail order thing might not be all that, give you all that many choices, but it really does.
Oh, it does. They've got moldings, picture moldings like any other framing company would have. I suppose there's some advantage to buying them in the volumes that they buy the moldings in. And they use the same process, I would suppose, that any other good framing company would use. And as a result,
you have to join to do that. But I was going to look at, you can create a frame, but I'm sure, you pick the molding, and then you pick the matting, and the matting,
you
and
can
that
double
kind of
mat them, you can single mat them, you can, you know, do all those things to them. Multiple pictures in a frame and that sort of stuff. So doing it that way may save you a few dollars. And it may be that you get just a little bit better quality frame because you know, they're custom making.
Well, here's my thought about it: is I would order a big print like that and say I'm going to get this frame, and then I don't ever take it to the frame shop. I mean, why not just order it all at once and then I've got it? You know, because then I'll sit there and say, oh yeah, you know, I'm 90 years old and I'm saying someday I'm going to get that framed.
Well, yeah, and it's amazing how many things. When you do that, it's amazing how many things you'll find in many of these suppliers are free freight, for example. And so it's a great way to get it done and get it done all at one time and with reasonably high quality.
Here's another option: photo calendars. These are this is also from Adorama Pix, but you can do these with some of the other services.
There are lots
as well.
there are lots of these companies that offer calendars.
And again, a practical item that gets hung on the wall, and you know.
Well, in our house, we still hang calendars on the wall, and we scratch in appointments and stuff like that. You know, something that's happening with the kids, you know, grandkids, and so on. And it's kind of a nice change. Instead of having to go and pay $12 for a calendar to hang on your wall that's of stuff you really don't know anything about, you actually can choose your own pictures and put them in the calendar, and you can relate to those things. It's another way to display your personal artwork.
And then, of course, we're talking about, these are the mounting as well. We've already looked at that. We talked about some of the mounting. Let's see.
We talked about the magnets. We
we have, this is, coasters. And you can also, glass tiles. Now, that's kind of an interesting item.
Yeah, glass tiles. you're refinishing your bathroom, and you got that border of tiles that goes around. I suppose maybe you can inset the glass tiles with the pictures of your family in that point. But there are, I'm sure, many uses for glass tiles as decorative art.
Right, yeah, well, or as coasters for that matter. And the other one, this is a really fun one. This is puzzles. You know, have a jigsaw puzzle made from a photo, and again, several. This is Bay Photo here, but many of these services do that.
There are several services offering these jigsaw puzzles. I think we used to call them. But the fact of the matter is that it can be a pretty complicated puzzle. Lots of pieces. They'll make them as big as you want. And here's a case where our RVing friends out there have taken pictures of the Grand Tetons, or they've taken pictures of Glacier Park or some other thing. And you got these beautiful pictures, and you say, well, I'll show them these to somebody one of these days.
Right.
Put the picture on a puzzle and have it on your coffee table for people to play with, and by golly, you know, it's pretty nice looking.
Yeah, well, we're going to have more stuff for your coffee table or your RV or both when we come back here on What's Wrong with This Picture, so stay with us. We got more good stuff. Have a question or a comment for Dennis Guillaume? Get in touch at picture@rvnn.tv, and don't forget to send us your RVing pictures for possible use on an upcoming episode. You can also leave a voicemail for Dennis at 877-578-RVNN, extension 704. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. For more TV like this from the world of RVs, head to rvnn.tv.